If you imagine that you really need a very big and expensive lens to make bokeh, well, that is the video for you. Let's shatter that myth. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today let's talk about bokeh and how to achieve the maximum bokeh as possible. To help me with that, I am here with Carolina. So you can check them out. Her Instagram will be on the description. And to help filming, say hi to her sister. Hi. The first thing that you need to know is the aperture. So a fast lens, of course, will be better. Let's test that. So this lens go all the way to 2.8, and let me just show what it will happen. So I'm gonna take one picture in f2.8 in one, I don't know, f8 or something like that. So let's try that. So one in f2.8, and let's change the aperture to f8. Yes. Isso mesmo. So if you notice, the f2.8, as it's a bigger aperture, of course will have way more bokeh. So many of you already noticed that f8 cuts a lot of light, so forcing the shutter speed to be 1/30th of a second, which adds motion blur to the photo. That's not the only factor. You have other factors as well. For example, zoom. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna take two photos with the same frame on Carolina, but also I'm gonna shoot at f5.6 because a lot of cheap lens will go to f5.6 or f4 or something like that. I'm gonna do one on 70 millimeters or another one all the way to 200 millimeters. That means that 200 millimeters I have to go a little bit further to take the same frame. And let's see what we're gonna get. So at 70 millimeters is... Okay. Vamos fazer exatamente a mesma foto, a única diferença é que eu vou andar mais para trás. Fica tudo igual. If we compare both of those pictures, of course, the one at 200 millimeters will be the best one. Another thing that I like to point out is the shape of the bokeh is not round because it's showing up the blades of the lens. Of course, you can play with this, and I showed that cool effects in bokeh on 7 creative ideas with Christmas lights. The same way as my distance from the model is important to create a big bokeh, the lights from the model is also very important. So to prove that, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a few pictures of Carolina with the lights just behind her and another ones with the lights far away. So let's do the first one. Isso. Ok. Agora vai para longe. Não, tu ficas no mesmo sítio. Tu ficas no mesmo sítio, tu não mexes nada. Agora vê-te pedir, é para te abaixar um bocadinho, que a tua mãe não consegue se levantar mais. Isso. Vais conseguir? Isso mesmo. Okay. Just to prove my point, I actually gonna record a video on my camera, okay? And you guys can see the difference that those lights will do. Pode vir para cá? Now, as you can see, the dots will get smaller and smaller as it gets closer to the model. There you go. So the distance between the lights in the model is also very important. Those distance is important, but it's also important the distance between the lights themselves. If they are extremely closer, you can fall into a problem. She's very close now to the red lights, and let's try to make a shoot. Corrija bocadinho o cabelo. Okay, now vem comigo. Okay, stop. As you can see, now we are much further away from the red lights, and let's try to do the exact same picture. As we are much further away, you can see that the bokeh dots blend together, which makes a huge mess. Not beautiful, not flattering at all. So yeah, study your scene, study the best places to shot, and there you go. Let's shatter the myth that this kind of photography is expensive. So this is an expensive camera with an expensive lens. Let's take one shot and then compare with an expensive solution. Isso mesmo. Brutal. Let's go to an expensive other solution. So this is a camera, extremely cheap camera, the Canon M100 or something like that. This is an adapter that costs, I don't know, 30 bucks, something like that. And this lens is inexpensive as well because it doesn't even have the brand on it. So the really cool thing about this lens is that goes to 1.8. So it's a very fast lens, but it's manual focus. So you really need to be an expert on manual focus here. There you go. So the last thing that I want to talk about is the exposure, specifically the 3200 ISO that I used. It's important to see that ISO is also a tool of exposure, and the theory that just use the minimal as possible all the time is completely wrong. So in my situation, I want to photograph without a tripod, without having motion blur from the model or shakiness of the camera. So, and I wanted to have the ambient light. So I couldn't go down on the shutter speed, I couldn't open more the aperture because it was already the max as possible, but I could push up the ISO to recover a little bit of ambient light. And as you can see on these two photos, they are exactly the same frame and exactly the same lights in the back. What changed is the light on this Russian model. As you can see in 3200 ISO, I powered the light to its minimal setting, and at 100 ISO I push it all the way to 100% of power to show up the model. So yeah, the ISO, it's important to also recover the ambient light and how bright will be your bokeh. Portraits with bokeh-licious photos, it's not that hard to do when you know how. Thank you to the Carolina's sister, say hi. And to Carolina here, check her out, her Instagram, she has an amazing work. Link is on the description. Drop a like if you learned something, comment down below if you have any questions, and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I'm Miguel, Carolina, see ya. Ela está-se a divertir agora.